Hello, welcome to the Total Truth Show. My name is Aldwyn, Altuney, coming to you from the Gold Coast in Australia.
And my name is Ken Kleinberg, and I'm coming to you all the way from the USA in San Diego County, California.
And my name is Blythe Langford, and I am coming to you from the Byron Shire in New South Wales, Australia.
We have a hot topic today, chatting about the truth about sovereignty, straight after this short introduction.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Total Truth Show, hosted by myself, Ken Kleinberg from San Diego County, California.
And I'm Aldwyn Altuney, known as the Media Queen from the Gold Coast in Australia.
And our goal here on this show is to help you to break away from the mainstream media propaganda and lies, the disinformation and misinformation that's out there in the mainstream, and really help you to start questioning everything and start doing the research for yourself. We want to punch through all of that disinformation and misinformation. Our goal here is to raise global consciousness to quantum critical mass and then pave the way for a new awakened civilization. And we would love for you to come along for the ride. Don't take our word for it. The things that we share here on the show, that goes for our guests too. Start doing the research for yourself. Start going and asking the questions for yourself. Get out there and really find the real truth behind things. So with that, let's get started, you guys. Let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome.
Oh, yes. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so excited about this show. In fact, we started a little bit late today because we had so much great conversation happening before we started this show. We just wanted to keep going. And then we thought, okay, maybe a good idea to press record soon. So very excited about today's topic. And Blythe and I actually met online recently chatting about common law and about foundations. And she is so in the know on so many different topic. So a little bit about this amazing lady first before we get into this episode here today. Now, Blythe provides clients with a holistic approach to wealth and wellness. A holistic approach to wealth and wellness. Instilling the ability to grow through challenges and limitations, to discover their purpose, their soul mission, and create projects that they're inspired by that support humanity, the planet, and a better future for all. She's a coach, a rebirthing breathwork therapist, a philanthropist, a humanitarian, an environmentalist, a raw vegan chef, a naturopathic nutritionist passionate about natural healing. She's also the founder of the not-for-profit Resonate Foundation. And this is a private members association that provides education and training, empowering others to serve humanity and or care for the planet and live sustainably. She currently lives on 50 acres where she is, she's in an environment with regenerative native bush, growing organic food and building an eco-retreat with purpose-built darkness cabins to help support the well-being of her community. Wow, wow, wow. Amazing, amazing. Welcome, Blythe, and welcome to my phenomenal co-host as well, Ken Kleinberg. Great to have you both here today.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Amazing, Blythe. I can't believe how much you've done in your short time on the planet, Blythe. You look so young for all that experience. It's phenomenal. So what took you down the rabbit hole, Blythe? Where did this all begin for you?
I think just, we were speaking about it a bit earlier, but I think, so many things. It's like, which decade, but every bit of my life has taken me down multiple different rabbit holes. But I think the sovereignty piece that you're speaking of was really when I was 25. And like I mentioned previously, my second cervical cancer vaccine, and then really wanted to, and I was pro vaccinations, I was pro mainstream healthcare, and just because what it was doing to my body and how I could not even eat food and function well, and I was in constant pain every single day. Like I would eat and my body would become inflamed and bloated, and I would be crying with pain. And the doctors just would say to me that your stomach's just inflamed, you don't have cancer anymore, you're fine. And it was just so many things where they just wanted to give me more things that were just, it just became crazy. It actually became craziness. And so that's when I got into natural health and started studying naturopathic nutrition and healing modalities like yoga and meditation, and studied yoga for 15 years, and then the rebirthing breath work and different forms of breath work, and really looking into organics, and started to shift my life, but then also realizing that really the health aspect really allowed me to see that pharmaceutical companies were ruling the world, and that our best interests were not at the heart of anything that are the authorities that rule us. And so that really led me into sovereignty and sovereignty over my own body and body autonomy. And then that led me into mental autonomy and gaining access of my own nervous system and functioning and regulating my own health. And then I guess people around me really just noticed what I was doing for myself and wanted support in what they were doing. I mean, I was already really successful in business and finances and things like that, and people wanted more help in the health aspect now as well. So I started to bring all of the different worlds of everything that I had learned together. I mean, that was in my 20s, and then in my 30s, brought it all together and started to share more with other people. And then that was when I started to go into different forms and different areas of legislation. I started off with the Australian Constitution, and then common law, and more recently in the last decade, Crown law, and putting all that together and finding the areas of freedom within that as well, because there is freedom in everything that we think is oppressing us as well. So yeah, that's a little bit of that journey. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, just cut off a little bit at the beginning where you said you were diagnosed with cancer. So just if you could just repeat that bit of how old were you and what cancer did you have?
I was 25 and I was diagnosed with stage 4 cervical cancer after having the cervical cancer vaccine, and was recommended to have quite invasive radiation. And I had just started on my health and healing journey, and just started with coming off, the contraceptive pill and not taking medication anymore. And so it didn't align me to do full surgery and radiation or anything like that. I decided to go the less invasive surgery as I possibly could. I chose to have a laser surgery and then natural healing myself. So laser surgery just being they do like a day surgery when you're awake, and hope for the best with that. And so that's when I became obsessed with health and chose to really take over my own health and body autonomy and not do anything else invasive after that. That was,
So did you heal yourself of that? How's your health now overall?
I've never been sick again.
Mm.
Yeah, that was when I was 25 and I'm 42. So
I find that extremely fascinating.
Once, but that's it.
Yeah. I find that very fascinating. And it's something else that's very fascinating too, is you are now the second person that we have had on our show that has cured themselves of cancer. And you had a little bit of the laser surgery.
I did. So I didn't do it all by myself. Yeah.
That we had just totally did it on her own. But I find that, because I know that there are definitely no coincidences. No, I don't believe in that. But I do find it very interesting that you are now the second person that we have brought on the show. I mean, what are the chances? And so that also causes me to ask the question, why? Why now have we now had two people come on the show and publicly state that they have healed themselves from cancer? I just find that very interesting.
I don't know if I publicly stated that. I definitely, if I had the option to do it again, knowing what I know now, I would 100%, as we spoke about, Comfrey would be in there. Yeah. But I would definitely self-heal. But the people that I had around me, my educators, because my cancer was so evolved, like stage 4, they said, look, if it was stage 2 or something like that, then I would say do it yourself. But they were fearful. And I was like, but this is what we've just learned. What do you mean? Let's go. They're like, so I did have help. But yeah, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have.
Yeah. I mean, public meaning we're live on the stream. That's kind of what I meant. Sorry about that.
Sorry. Like, I wish I did it all by myself.
Did I say something wrong?
I did. No, I wish I did it all by myself.
Yes, but mostly by the sound of it. Mostly you took your own health into your own hands, and you didn't just get the chemotherapy, because I know Don Tolman, someone I highly admire in the natural health space, and he says publicly all the time that more people die from the treatment of cancer than from cancer itself. And I must say, when I saw a documentary called Cancer, the Forbidden Cures, which we actually have on our Conscious Community Global Facebook group, I'll put the link in the chat in just a minute. That documentary, Cancer, the Forbidden Cures, will blow your mind. The number of cures that have been out for cancer have been shut down by pharmaceutical companies over the years is extraordinary. And I can say also, like you, Blythe, I had a shock when I got a tetanus shot about 20 years ago. I was about to head to China, and they said, you've got to get a tetanus shot. I got a tetanus shot in my backside, at the side of the backside, not right up the backside, but, they're just the side of my bottom. I know there's a great visual for you. The side of my
backside.
Wow.
I saw a great little comedy skit yesterday, which I put on my Facebook, and it evolved some searching up the backside. So I probably just had that on the mind for a second. But anyway, you might want to go back and have a little laugh over that one I shared last night. But anyway, they put the shot up in the side of my backside, sort of at the top of my glutes, or in the side of my glutes, and ever since that tetanus shot, I ended up with a massive lump on my backside there on the side, and I ended up with sciatica down that side of my body for years that came and went. And I don't know whether they got the wrong spot or whatever it was. I still now, even all these years later, I can feel into that side of my butt cheek, and I can feel where they put that tetanus shot. Wow. And needless to say, like God knows what was in that stuff, but I just do things as naturally as possible. I haven't had the jab, and each to their own on that one. But I've seen many people die, and we all have. We've seen many people injured by the jab. My dad got shingles from it at 84 years of age, never had shingles, and now all these treatments for shingles are coming out everywhere. Isn't that interesting? One of the biggest side effects of the jab. And I've lost a lot of friends in their 50s unexpectedly, a lot of cardiac arrest, a lot of heart attacks, and this is a whole other topic. However, you choose what goes into your body, and this is what this sovereignty is about, right? So share a little bit more, if you can, please, Blythe, about what the whole concept of sovereignty and how people can become more sovereign.
Yeah, sure. So sovereignty really is the coming back into freedom from external control and the ability to self-govern. So once we can have all of the information that's needed out there so that we can make informed decisions, then we can make decisions that are best for us, for the future that we want to live, and for future generations that want to come. So rather than anything based on fear or our own internal or lineage or ancestral trauma, rather we can come into a place of emancipation and liberty and freedom so that we can really have all of the information to make informed decisions. And like we were speaking about in the green room, like there is so many areas, whether it be to do with, mental health or our body and diet or lifestyle and environment, or the information that we are putting in through mass media in our minds. Once we have, the right information and all of the information, then we can come back into a place of making decisions out of liberation rather than oppression. And so for me, I feel like that's really important, to be able to share whatever I can with anybody that comes into my in my environment. So whether people are coming in, like, we've got 3 pillars of freedom that we talk about. So we've got the health and vitality, we've got finances and resources, and then we've got mind and spirit, because we feel like all of them really create wholeness and holistic sovereignty, rather than focusing on one area and being deficient in another area. It's really about having that complete wholeness and oneness, so then we can come into a space of no lacking or scarcity, which is a pre-programmed experience in all of our cellular makeup, so that we can come into a liberated version of what sovereignty really is, to be able to make informed decisions that are in alignment with us and our organic state of being. Because once we can really, I know that you guys have been really passionate about this. I've watched quite a few of your shows, but come into a place of, removing the external programming or the wiring that has us depleted and deficient and not in our organic state. We can come back to the organic state and that true heart resonance in deep connection with source and spirit and the planet, and make decisions that are going to impact not only us, but every body and every being out there now and for who's yet to come, right? Because we think that we are so disempowered, but even where we purchase our coffee from, or where we purchase our milk from, or our fruit from, makes a decision. And who are we supporting in each and every moment? Because that will actually create life force in the future, or actually end it in the future. So we are so powerful, even in our every single moment, and just by the choices that we make. And then also, what also helps to give us real sovereignty as well, and I'm just getting a message from the environment that I'm in, is being in nature. Nature is what gives us life. It's what gives everything on this planet life. The sun is what gives everything energy. So whether we're eating a plant-based diet like myself, or like Ken eating a full animal-based diet, all of those things get their nutrition from the sun. Sun is life force. So we need to get out there and get life force from everything, so that we can be of full resonance, of full empowerment. And like, the truth then really is just nature expressing itself through us.
I don't want to go way, I'm sure, if that's where this trail is going to take us, but it's interesting in some of the research and alternative news channels that I'm a part of. They're sharing how the powers that be, if you will, and not the good ones, want to block out the sun. I find that very interesting, since the sun is our energy source. It's also the energy source of all the plants, everything, the ground, all of it. I find it interesting that they want to block that out.
Can I even bring something up on that? And half the time they don't even need to do that, because they have us so set in our ways to be inside on our devices that they don't even need to do that. We do that for ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. But yes, 100%, they want to block out the sun. But then do they even need to? Because all of it, like, so many people just live inside and forget to be outside in nature.
Right.
Exactly. And then with the food that we were talking about, like even a vegan diet, if somebody's having all of their vegan food that is hybridized and that is grown inside and doesn't get sun and
laboratory grown,
frozen, exactly, then it's not going to be really healthy and have the life force energy in it as well. So
I find it very disturbing that they're now coming out with laboratory grown meat.
Oh, it's sickening, isn't it?
It is.
Mm-hmm.
So hydroponic food wouldn't have the same life force then, is that right? If they're grown under light.
Exactly. Yeah, it's never seen the light of day.
It would have the same detrimental health effects as this fake meat that they're putting out there, Beyond Meat, Impossible Foods and stuff like that. Which, speaking of, just by the way, if you've come across the name Impossible Foods and this Beyond Burger and Beyond Meats, founders of that project, one is Google, the other one is Bill Gates. Now, if you know as much as I do about both of those, that is very alarming.
How interesting. And this is the interesting thing about sovereignty, is that we've actually always been sovereign, haven't we? However, we've had over time, we've had these elite forces, these government forces, which is mind control. Government means mind control, right? We've had these outside forces come in and say, you must do what we say. You know, these enforcers that come in, you must pay us half of everything you earn. You must be slaves to the system. However, then they promote it like, oh, but we're actually here because we really care about you. We really care about your health. Just get the jab, jab, jab a million times and you'll be just fine if you don't die on the first one, right? So, this is what we've got. And now more and more people are saying, hang on a second, what's going on here? More and more people are standing up now. And I've seen particularly through COVID, so many common law groups have been forming around the world, which is awesome. There is a uprising happening. And I mean, right now, as we speak, there's protests in Hollywood right now. All the actors in Hollywood are protesting right now that are not being taken over by machines and artificial intelligence, right? I mean, there's people standing up all over the place. And so the thing is, though, as people are standing up, some people might be feeling despondent and thinking, well, what can we do? What can we do, about these evil elite forces that are bringing down their weapons and threatening and killing? They do kill people who speak their truth. We've had that since the beginning of time. Yep. And there's always that potential that could potentially happen at any point, which is coming from that fear base. And I always say, well, come from a love base, but also speak your truth, right? So Blythe, what do you think is the best approach to really creating change in this world of sovereignty?
Realizing how powerful we are and that they are all businesses, and without our support, they do not exist. So don't purchase their products. And then they don't have then they don't have your resources or your energy and time. It's literally that simple. If one of those, you were speaking about Beyond Burgers and their founders, if everybody stopped purchasing those phones and those devices and went back to using other systems like a Linux system where it actually educates the mind, then we would be liberated in that. Choosing where we buy our coffee, choosing where our clothes come from, those simple things change the world. If everybody tomorrow, I don't want to say the company, but stopped using a particular favorite phone and stopped using all of those devices, then Beyond Burgers wouldn't exist.
What's funny,
neither with the vaccine.
What's also funny about it is, here's the thing. I don't remember how long ago it was, maybe like 4-6 months ago. I was in Costco, and there's a bunch of wonky things going on with the supply chain and all this other stuff. So this was just one particular time when I was in Costco. They were all out of like hamburger beef meat. They were all out of it. Funny thing is the only thing that was left, and the boxes were full. It didn't even look like people were choosing that as a second option, were this Beyond Meats, this Beyond Burger. There was loads of it. And the entertaining thing about that moment for me was that the icing on the cake, if you will, was there was a guy in the aisle with me. And this guy was like frantically looking for a worker. And one finally came down the aisleway and he's like, hey, do you guys have any real meat left? And I did, for me, I just found that just entertaining. I'm just like, good for you, man. You're awake. You're not buying into this crap. So, I'm finding that more and more people are waking up to this, this fake meat and stuff like that, because people just aren't buying it. The Beyond Jerky even, it just sits right there on the shelf. It doesn't even look like anybody's grabbing after it. So, for me, that's like, it's kind of like gratefulness that people are not buying into it.
Yes, and people moving beyond the jerks as well, right? Beyond jerky and beyond this is where we're going. And thank goodness for people like Blythe who are out empowering people to become sovereign. Because I must say, with common law, now there's so much involved with common law that sometimes, it's like a whole reframe from what we've been taught, right? So it takes some time to actually study it, to get your head around it, to work it all out. And we're just saying, just at my place, I've got no trespass signs at my place. And the other day, police forced their way onto my property and they pushed one of my the people who lived at my house, pushed him onto the ground, abused him, assaulted him. And it's all going through the courts right now. They had no right to be on our property past those trespass signs. They said, they don't apply to us, right? So this is the thing, is the police, they think they're a law unto themselves and they can just do whatever they want and go wherever they want on whatever grounds they think they want. This is going to trial now, right? We're taking it further because they have seriously damaged my friend. They've injured him. They literally grabbed him by the throat and pushed him to the ground to get through the door. And this is after he'd already answered their questions for them out in front of the house and went to come back inside, and they pushed it because they wanted to talk to more people in the house, right? So they were just completely out of line. And this is what we're facing, right? We're facing this kind of stuff where they try and bully their way through, and they do abuse and assault people. And in fact, like the police tasered that 90-something-year-old woman the other day because she had a knife in her hand. Like, what the hell? She could barely move. She could barely walk. And just because she's got a knife in her hand, they tasered her and they killed her. She ended up dying, this lady.
Oh, I didn't hear about that. Yeah, there's so much going on in the world. And that's why it's really important. I feel like when we first come into sovereignty and knowing about legislation and things like that, people can be belligerent. And it's our natural state because we're angry and we really, and I've been there, and I still find that that's like, sometimes for me, that's a space that I naturally go to as well. But belligerence is a finable offense, and police are trained when people are being belligerent that they've got their own protocol, and it doesn't go well, but it's in the order so that we can then be, you know, a fine is then put against us, or we can be, you know, incriminalized or whatever it is. So it's really important for us to know who we are in the system as well. And like you were saying before, what sovereignty is, that we were all born sovereign, that we are all sovereign at any moment in time. It's only us giving our power externally to another force or something else in that environment that takes our power away from ourselves. And it isn't our natural state to be angry. That's a response of the nervous system, right? We're in fight, or freeze in that moment. So it's up to us in every moment, whenever we can, like we did before we got on this show, just to take a deep breath, regulate our nervous system, and come back from a place of truth rather than fear. And so it's really hard to practice, but it takes practice. And just like your friend Aldwyn in that moment, and all of us in every moment, myself included, over, you know, the decades that I've been in sovereignty, it takes time and practice and self-regulation and self-governance to come back into that sovereignty space within ourselves so that we can speak our truth. And the thing is, we've all thought that we need to know all these legislations and know all of these things so that we can speak authentically, when, like I've spoken about as well, it's actually just speaking about what's true and real for us in that moment. And that's what's being sovereign, because we're trained that we're not allowed to express our emotions and our feelings, but that's what provides sovereignty, because we've got to remember that the forces that be, they can only be there for health and safety. Their job is to provide health and safety to the public. And so if you're expressing your emotions, I am fearful, I am scared, I am anxious, I am frightened, I'm in terror right now, then they're committing a crime, because they are not providing health and safety in that moment. And so it's really important for us to speak our truth, because it actually will free us. And if we just go on and fight out of our nervous system, whether it be fight, fright, or freeze or fawn, then we are being disempowered in that moment. So really speaking our truth and really getting in touch with our emotions is liberation and is freedom in every moment. And with these sovereignty groups, and like you said, the truth groups that are coming up, it's excellent and it is empowering. And I want to make sure that people stay empowered, not debilitated by that, because a lot of people are overwhelmed by all the legislations that they need to learn, and they really don't go anywhere with it, and it's quite crippling for many. So if we can just remember that we're always sovereign, and that it's just a practice of the public sector to have us disempowered and to have our freedoms put outside of ourselves. Now, what I mean by that is, now this can sound a little bit weird, so pull me back in, guys, if it's getting a bit out there and it doesn't make sense, but our name is our greatest asset. We are not our name. Our name is something that the public sector uses against us to incriminate us. It's something that they use to register into the system so that it can be used against us. Just like every police officer says, anything that you say can and will be used against you. And what they're talking about is your name. They're going to use your name against you in order to stick a crime to that. Because if you are a free man or woman, then you don't need to put the power into something outside of yourself. Now, the best way I can, I'll give you a story about this. Like hundreds of years ago, everybody knew the Bible. Everybody knew that they were free men and women, and they were, and I'm not religious, but if you're in a country with a flag, then your legislation is based on a religion. So everybody hundreds of years ago knew the religion of their country, and were able to go into a courtroom and stand up and repeat verses from their text, their religious text, that would actually free them under the eyes of legislation, under the eyes of the courtroom. And we've been disempowered in that, taken out of the knowledge of religious texts of our country, because they want us to give authority to a lawyer or to an accountant, so that we don't know how to regulate our own finances or our own legislation. We can't stand up for ourselves anymore. We're always giving the power to something else rather than ourselves. So sovereignty is about realizing that nothing has changed except modern day indoctrination over, our grandparents have taught us, you can't get away from death and taxes. But we can empower ourselves so that we can choose where our money goes, and choose how much tax we pay, and choose when we want to exit this planet as well. So that's why our name is one of the most important things. Once we realize that our license, our passport, and all of those things, they're actually external things outside of ourselves. That's not us. That's how the system uses these little entities, and they are entities outside of ourselves, to have us incriminating ourselves. They have us thinking that we are the license, or we are the passport, because that's outside of us. That's not actually who we are. We are the man or woman, the living being here, that is outside of the public sector as well, that is outside of that system. We've always been outside of that system, but it's the passport and the license that draws us back into that system. Once we agree to being that name, once we agree to being that passport or license, then that's when those rules apply to us. But if we aren't that name, if we aren't in that system, then we don't have to abide by those rules. There is one rule, which is do no harm to yourself and do no harm to others. That is the universal law, right? Yes, we may be on a land where there is Indigenous rules as well, and honouring those wherever you're travelling is very important as well. Having treaty wherever you are. Australia is the only country that doesn't have treaty. So the laws of the public sector actually don't stick on this land because Australia has no treaty. So if we realise that we are not that name, that all of those laws don't apply to us, that we are doing no harm to ourselves or others, then we are actually free to self-govern and to walk. Now, normally the first thing that people say is, well, does that mean I can speed? Does that mean I can speed and get away with my fines? It's like, if you were able to stand up for yourself in a courtroom, then yes, possibly, absolutely. But it's also knowing all the legislations in that, in how to do that. So, and that takes practice. So that's why I'm always like, just start really small. Just start by having little pieces of sovereignty, which is taking back your freedoms and your right to choose with how you spend your money, taking back a little bit of freedom with your body and what you put in there, making sure it gets the light of day and gets sunshine and beautiful water. And then your mind as well. Your mind is just the top part of your nervous system that has been wired from birth. And meditation and breath work and nature-based practices will really help to calm the nervous system and to help you self-regulate and to heal past traumas, because our nervous system is wired through trauma. And once we start to understand and heal those traumas, I mean, I use rebirthing breath work. That's what I'm trained in. I'm trained in many things, but I feel like that's a beautiful area of trauma therapy and ancestral healing. That's a really great way to start to heal the nervous system and the body, because the body is also where memory is stored. Many people just work on the mind and they never actually release what is stored and trapped in the cellular memory, because our memories aren't stored in our mind. We can do all this mindset and we can do all these positive affirmations, which I think are great, but we can do just that, and we will always go back to these old patterns because the body is what stores the memories. So we really need somatic expression to be able to release the blockages of the body as well.
I'm going to take this a step further. So, I mean, I totally 100%
Amazing.
agree with everything that you said. So there's a couple of things that are on my mind.
Great.
And Aldwyn, if you want to jump in anytime, like, feel free, because I tend to dominate the conversation. So I'm just letting you know, please feel free to stop me and jump in.
I will.
There's a couple of things here, and I've got one of them written down, and it's going to take basically the name thing that you were talking about. It's going to take it even a step further. But before I get into that, I want to basically express in the fact of, so I've been doing a lot of inner work, a lot of work on the subconscious, a lot of work on a lot of different things recently. And I'm actually reading through this absolutely mind-blowing, phenomenal book right now that is just, and I mentioned this on our last show, and I'm going to mention it here again because, again, I was listening to the audio version of it today in the further chapters, and I'm just going, good Lord, I'm going to have to listen to this all again because I can't even wrap my head around this right now. But the title of the book is A Happy Pocket Full of Money. Okay. Are you familiar with that book?
I only heard you mention it on your last show. That's all.
Okay. So then you heard my conversation about it. So I'm not going to go into too deeply about it, but I am going to say this to our viewers who did not watch our last show. Do not judge this book by its cover. Please do not. That is actually a really good thing. Okay. This book goes way, way, way beyond its title. So anyhow, enough about that. So doing the inner work and connecting in with who you are and the inner self, and just learning to in the beginning, towards the beginning of our show, before we went live, we were in the green room and we were talking, Blythe had said, I'm anxious, about this show. I automatically took that as the negative, but that's because there's a lot of struggle I've had with anxiety. So it's still kind of very fresh on the negative sense to me. She was speaking of anxiety as I'm excited, like in a good way, more of a positive aspect of it. Now, where I'm going with this is it caused me to say the statement, and this is part of like the inner work that I've been doing. And it's actually quite an interesting thing once you start practicing it. We live 90% of our lives in fear and anxiety. And a lot of times we don't even know it because we are so dang used to it. And here's how it happens. We either live in the past from our past experiences, meaning I show up for work on my business. I produce content. I put stuff out there. I am literally operating off of what I've known in the past. Experience after experience after experience after experience. I am literally operating off of things I've already learned and things that, okay, so that's me operating in the past. Now, when it comes to worry and anxiety, that's me operating in the future. That's also something that common happens in our day-to-day lives over and over and over again. We've been conditioned for this. We've been programmed for this. And then the powers that be, not the good ones out there, play on that. They also feed on that. They love throwing it in your face. My point is simply start learning to be in the here and the now. One of the things that I took away recently from this book that I'm reading is practicing being in the here and now. So now when I show up for my business and I'm producing content, to stop and sit there and be literally in the moment, and then not just be in the moment, take it the step further, act as if this is the first time that I've done this particular task. And now what you get to do is now you draw in the powers of being able to choose and make little tweaks, do something different, because you are there in the moment. You are not there operating off of habit and autopilot, if you will, if that all makes sense. So that's kind of, also to speak on taking back your sovereignty. I think part of that also speaks to learning not to live in either the past or the future, but learning to take advantage of the here and now, because in the here and now, literally, time is irrelevant in the here and now. That might be a little bit far for some of you to like grasp, but these are some of the things that I am learning. And so you've got something to say, Blythe.
I love that. And time is not linear, right? And so when you're saying the here and the now, I also believe that it's the full integration of all the past and the present so that it can be the future,
Yes.
right?
It's
Because,
all in one.
there's lots of studies at the moment as well that because time is not linear, that our future self and our past self can be communicating with our present self, and all of these experiences are going off at once. And so in that as well, yes, the powers that be play on that. And so I'm super ADD, so I've got like 20 thoughts all at once. I'm like so excited.
That's why I have to write stuff down. I'm just like, okay, I got to write it because I got to remember this.
Relate, don't worry.
But one of the things that actually I just want to bring presence to this, the common thread of people that have had near-death experiences is when they cross over, the one thing that they all feel is pure acceptance of every part of their being. And for me, I'm like, wow, so they're not feeling that in their lives. And I have experiences of that as well. And so, and it just feels so beautiful. It feels like home. And that's my favorite quote, we're just walking each other home. And so to be able to feel that home in every moment is pure acceptance. So acknowledging all of the parts of our past and they made us who we are, and being proud of them rather than trying to push them down or suppress them is, again, what comes to our sovereignty and our liberation, and allows us to be in the present moment so that we can, live in presence, but in hope and excitement for the future and what maybe has already come. Like maybe we started at the end and we're working our way back and we don't even know because time's linear, like not linear. Who knows? Maybe it's, who knows what's going on.
The author of the book actually talks about time literally being, it's an illusion, really, when you get down to it. And I found that fascinating too. Very, very fascinating. Now, the second thing though, kind of going back to how you were talking about how they use our name against us. Now, I want to take that a step further. Let's talk about the Social Security number. So I learned early on that through my process of awakening, which I took my red pill in summer of 2020, I learned from the very first client that came through my program, she was also wide awake, knew a lot, like probably a lot more than I did, that our Social Security number is actually a bank routing number. From the point when we are born in a hospital and our parents sign that paperwork, the birth certificate is actually not a birth certificate at all. You are literally, when you sign that piece of paper, your parents literally are signing you away and making you property of the state or whoever. Basically now you're owned by basically them. So like I said, the Social Security number is a bank routing number. Here's how I know that that's true. This client of mine found out how to use her Social Security number, bank routing number, to pay her bills for a short period of time until they finally caught on and they shut it off. Interesting enough, they never contacted her. They never did anything because obviously if they contacted her, that would open up a big giant can of worms. But this actually happened. And I was just like, okay, you actually did this. So this is actually true and viable. So that's what I mean. I'm going to take it one step further.
It's 100% true. Yes. I mean, we don't have security numbers here. So, but it's the same, your birth certificate. You know, your birth certificate is an entity is an entity. It's classed as a dead entity in the legislation. Absolutely. In the legislation, like it's classed as a dead entity, and it's actually not us, like what you're saying. It's an entity outside of ourselves. So, and I want to break down really simply like legislation as well, because it can be really simple once we, I've just been doing it for a long time. So this is how I see it. Is it all right if I express that? Because this will put into context. Yeah. So, you know, all countries are based on some religion. So let's go with our countries that are Christian based. So it's God. God then created the man and the woman. The man and the woman then created the government, and the government then created the person, right? So the government was created by men and women. So men and women, actually I'll start at the top. So the man and the woman, they get their direct governance from the creator, from God. God tells them their rules, what their mission in life is, what their purpose, what they're meant to do here. And so nobody can come between that interaction with them and the creator, because as if like it's in their mind, it's in their spirit, it's in their soul. It's what is embedded into them from before time. So nobody can govern that. But some of these men and women decided that they wanted to create an association, and they called it the government. And so they came down here and they created a government that was based on health and safety. And they said to some of the men and women up here, look, we're going to provide you the best healthcare and safety that we can, and we'll also take away your trash. So why don't you come down here as a person and exist, and we will look after you. So this is the taking from sovereignty to the person. And what you're saying, Ken, is the person is what is the social security number, or Aldwyn in our country, it's the birth certificate that is the dead entity, because a person is considered in legislation a dead entity. It is not the living man or woman. So, and this is how the system incriminates us in every interaction with the public sector. The public sector is this sector down here. It's the governance. It's for us would be the ATO, the tax department, all of those sort of things. That's the public sector. It's where corporations exist, and corporations rule corpses. The person is a corpse. It's a dead entity in the eyes of the legislation, right? But up here, we are always living men and women. We are always free beings. We can always have different businesses up here. We can have private members associations. We can have not-for-profit associations, because we don't need profit up here. Profit only exists in this world down here for corporations. Profit literally means to idolize false prophecies. Profit, idolize false prophecies. The government is the false prophecy. When the real not profit, but prophecy is the creator, right? Like that's who we should be in alignment with, and that's where all our business dealings should be up here. So, you know, in America and in Scandinavia, it's huge to have associations that are not-for-profits. And so this area up here where not-for-profits exist, free men and women and associations, is a place where everybody assesses their own affairs. So it's self-assessment, whereas down here it's government assessment and the public sector. So the name exists down here through the registration of the birth certificate down here, and this is where dead entities exist, and this is where living and live entities exist. So that's just a little, does that make sense with the name? So the name exists down here, whereas up here everything's free, and it doesn't really exist up here. Like God didn't, you know, give you a name. God created children but didn't give them names. Our parents gave us names because they wanted us to be down here so that we could get the social security and all of the things. But yeah, that's where the system is so beautifully designed. It's just a business. And that's what I'm saying as well. If we just stop supporting this business and buying our coffees from here and buying our apples from here, then, you know, we can all come back to philanthropic projects where we're all supporting each other in this other completely different section of the world, that it already exists. It's already there. It's just about us sharing that with more people, that, you know, support local business, support people that are growing their own food, and don't support big corporations, and everything can shift overnight. Like, choose where you spend your money.
That's
Sorry,
beautiful.
I went on a tangent too.
No, that was awesome, Blythe. I love that description, and I love that visual there. Getting some feedback there. Love that visual around that. Now, I've heard this term straw man, and now there's actually a video on straw man that's in the Conscious Community Global group. And straw man, it's interesting because when you Google straw man, there's a lot of people putting down the whole straw man concept. It's like the whole conspiracy theory concept, you know, right? Like the term conspiracy theory was created by the CIA in the 1950s to knock anyone who spoke against the government. How interesting. And so straw man is another term that's often attacked. Can you share a bit about what you know about the straw man concept?
Straw man is simply the person. So that's literally what the person is. So it's the paper version of ourselves. It's the social security number. It's the license. It's the passport. It's the birth certificate. It's not us. It's what has us incriminating ourselves. So because we are not being the man and woman, we say yes, we are this person. We are the straw man, which is also the placenta. That's a whole nother tangent to go on. But it is also the placenta.
Lord, that's a wide open topic. Keep going.
That's what we were cut away from. It's source. We were cut away from the umbilical cord being cut, and that's what created all of the deficiencies in our immune system. So anyway, that's what the straw man is. So the straw man is literally the birth certificate. It's all of those things. It's the name. It's literally just the name that has us incriminating ourselves. So if we don't attach to that name and we realize that we are not that name, that we can still use that name to trade with the public sector, because they've got some good stuff down there. I want to go to hospital if I break my leg, you know, like they've got some good stuff I want to use. So we just, instead of being the name, we get to own it. So talking about it in the third person and really coming from that space. So for me, I know that I'm not that license. So if I know I'm not that passport, if I have to hand that license over to somebody, I would clearly state that, yes, you can have the license, not my license because it's not me. You can have the license or a license, but you can clearly see that that's not me because I am here. Any picture of you is not you in that moment. Like Ken was saying before, presence. It all comes back to presence. Where are you in that moment? I know that I'm always in this vessel. So sure, sometimes my consciousness slips out because of trauma, but I am pretty much trying to always be living in this vessel. And this license or passport, that is not me. That is not me in that moment. That's how they get us to incriminate ourselves. And I choose to not perform to do business with whoever needs to use that to create a crime against me or use that to create a fine against me. So that's pretty much what the straw man is.
You know, it's interesting because just as you were re-explaining that again for the second time, I think it actually clicked further in my head now. And I made the connection with what you were saying. I didn't actually catch on in the very beginning. I mean, I thought I caught it and I thought I was understanding what you're saying, but now I fully understand what you're saying, as that's how they disconnect us. It's
and in common,
yeah. Oh my gosh, that light bulb just went off for me. So like, that's cool.
So good. In common law, they talk about inner standing because understanding is you're standing under someone. However, we're so used to saying the term understanding, right? So there's so much in our language as well to be aware of. And it's interesting, when the police turned up at our property, they're actually looking for someone else who used to live at the house 6 months ago. And even though my friend who lives at my house now said to them 3 times, this guy is not at the house, they still wanted to bombard their way through the door. In fact, they did. They knocked him to the ground to go and speak to someone else to make sure that this person person wasn't at the house. But the very first question they asked my friend is, what is your name? And they looked him up on their little device. They looked up, what is your name? What is your date of birth? And that's exactly what they ask you when you call the tax office. If you can ever get through to the ATO, that's the first thing they ask you. What is your tax file number? What, they just get all your credentials. The council, you call the local council. They ask the same thing. What is your full name? What is your phone number? What is your email address? That's the very first thing. And they say they're recording all the conversations as well, right? So very interesting, very interesting times we're living in. And there is an uprising happening, and people are saying enough is enough of this, and they are coming into their sovereignty. And this is why this conversation is so powerful. And it does take some research, as Ken said. It just dropped for him now. And I mean, I'm learning all the time. I must say, I certainly don't know it all. And the more you dig into it, you go, oh my goodness. And I mean, I saw Zeitgeist years ago. I saw the movie, the documentary Zeitgeist, and that blew my mind back then. But I didn't get all of it. You know, like it'd be worth watching it 10 times. You know, but really for me, when I got the red pill is when actually an ex-partner of mine who brought David Icke out to Australia many years ago, and he said, you know, 9/11 was an inside job, don't you? I said, what do you mean? You know, I mean, I worked in the media for years. I was completely brainwashed, right? I believed what I saw in the media. I thought it was all true. And then he said, watch this video. And then he said, watch this video. And then watch this video. And I just went, oh my goodness. And then I started to do my own research. And then I found all this stuff around 9/11. There was a complete lie. And you think to yourself, well, why would they lie to us like that? Why would the American government kill its own people? Why would they do that? Well, if you want to know why things happen, just follow the money trail, my friends, right? Follow
exactly. It was a big cover up, that 9/11. It was a huge cover up. It was an inside job. It was all the CIA and Osama bin Laden. Yeah, he wasn't necessarily, he wasn't actually connected to that. I'm not saying that he was a good guy either. He just happened to be the perfect target for them to package everything up and pin it on him for the final finale, you know. And while I'm on that subject, I might as well say, you know, it's just, it's like, I'm, you know, I read stuff about, have we actually ever been to the moon? I've seen footage that says that we have not. Footage how they've used CGI, I think it's called, to show us the images on television. And I've seen the back scene stuff through some other videos that I watched where they've got the green screen behind them and they're literally being propped up in the air. So the question is have we really been to the moon or not? How real is that? And how, you know, how fake is it? You know, so there's a lot of this stuff out there, especially with CGI. I think we have to be very, very careful on what we believe is true, even with some of these so-called patriotic videos we're seeing out there. We've got to be very, very careful about what we are allowing in and sticking our beliefs around, because especially just because of this CGI that's out there. Very, very scary, as a matter of fact.
Absolutely. And it is a whole reframe. Some of this stuff is so hard to believe. You can see why people just want to bury their head in the sand, because they just go, oh, I don't want to know it. I don't want to say, oh, no, I can't. Surely the government have our best interests at heart. Surely they wouldn't lie to us about COVID. And surely, you know, surely, you know, like people are just so brainwashed often, a lot of people, and don't realize that they are. And this is where the you know, information, this knowledge is power, this applied knowledge is power, right? And so it's worth putting the time in, making the time to educate yourself. And, you know, looking, I mean, now we've got ChatGPT, which is now, you know, people aren't even thinking now because they're just popping in a question and ChatGPT is popping out answers to everything. It's got nothing positive to say about Donald Trump, and it's totally pushing one agenda, right? And so this is where now even more so we need to apply some critical thinking and actually, you know, a step beyond that and look and actually almost step beyond our own, like come you know, like realize how powerful we are. Like Blythe says, you know, we are amazingly super conscious beings, and we have been shut down from birth, really, from childhood. Do as you're told, you know, told where to go, when we can go to the toilet, what, you know, this is what you got to do, all this kind of stuff. And we've been compliant we've been compliant for too long now to people who are completely evil. Some completely evil people. A lot of people, you know, this elite society that is governing the media and governing the government even. You know, there's some really dark stuff going on. And, you know, I mean, let's not go into the story about how many children go missing every year and how many child sacrifices and all that kind of stuff. Like, it really is, there's some full on dark forces out there at play. And at the same time, there's some beautiful people coming into their light as more and more too now. And Blythe, I know where you're from the northern New South Wales area. There's a lot of very awake, conscious people in that area. It is a beautiful part of the world, northern New South Wales. Right now, actually, I'm on the Sunshine Coast, which is also beautiful. Anywhere between northern New South Wales and Sunshine Coast, I think, is absolutely magic in this part of the world. It's a stunning part of the world. And I think having that environment around you of conscious people and being in that beautiful natural environment for you would also be absolutely gold for you to stay at a higher frequency, right? So Blythe, can we chat a bit more about the kind of support that you give people around you, and how important is your environment for you to stay on top of your game?
Yeah, well, for me, I'll talk about the environment first. It's everything. It's everything. It's how I regulate my nervous system. It's how I feed myself, where, like I said, we're on 50 acres growing organic food. And it's the vibration and the frequency. So I was speaking to Ken earlier. It's like we've got amazing mountains around us that really help me to ground my energy. I mean, I'm a little bit today because I'm excited to be on here, and I haven't been for a run this morning, which is my normal practice. And yeah, I'm a runner and a cold plunger. But yeah, so for me, my daily rituals is I get up and I breathe, I do breath work, and then I meditate, and then I stretch and do yoga, and then I go for a run and I cold plunge in nature, and then I come back and I take my dog for a run, you know, and then I eat off the land. And so that is really important to me. Being here, I'm literally living my dream, you know, so that's really important. And, you know, going to the city, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like what it does to my nervous system. I don't like how many people there are. I don't like that there's traffic lights. We don't even have traffic lights here. There's 15 families in our suburb, and I know every one of them, and it's lovely. And I've only just lived like this for, you know, probably for about 4 years, and I love it. It's changed my world, and it's also allowed me to not buy into the BS anymore as much. I mean, I haven't for a very long time, and because I've known, you know, since I was 25 about this whole thing. That was when I was red pilled, you know. So because I've known about this for a long time, it's given me a lot of discernment and being able to, and especially reading the legislation really provides a lot of freedom, because you know how things are classified and classed, and so you're able to not need anybody else's information when something comes up from the government. You know, like we've got the referendum, the voice, and so as soon as I heard that and the legislation behind it, I was like, oh geez, you know, so I can actually discern things for myself now. So I've been really lucky that I don't need to do a lot of external information. I get the legislation, and that's where I need to get my information from. And yes, so that my environment is huge. So what we help people with is so I have two different businesses. I have my not-for-profit association, Resonate Foundation, and that helps to liberate other people as well, so that they can create their own humanitarian causes or environmental causes. Because I find that when I've been working with people, I've been a business coach for a long time, and I've been finding that when I was working with people, there was always something that was beyond their business that they really wanted to bring out there to the world. So it's normally a philanthropic project that they really want to get out there, but they're just doing their business for their hustle to make money. And then because they have to pay a lot of tax, they don't know how to actually get their heart mission out there to the world. So we support people to really figure out what is at the core of everything that they want to do, figure out what is their purpose, how they really want to serve and leave a legacy for next generations, and how we can minimize the tax and bring more funding into their mission. Because most people don't realize that their business or their service that they're providing to others can actually be set up as a not-for-profit association or a private members association that's tax exempt. And then all of those all of those funds that were generally being leached out can come back in and go into humanitarian projects that they're really passionate about. So we help people set up not-for-profit associations and private members associations. And then, as I mentioned, I'm also a rebirthing breathwork facilitator. So we help people. So that's the resources and the finances. Then, so these are the different areas of freedom that we help people with: resources and finances, and then health and vitality. So helping people with their mindset and their bodies, similar to Ken, but polar opposite, plant-based. Helping people really healing deep inner trauma. So rebirthing breathwork is going right back to the beginning, because we feel that at the beginning is when all the imprints were created on your DNA and of how you were going to live your life. So can I explain that a little bit? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So like your birth story, literally in rebirthing breathwork, which is a lineage from ancient yogic philosophy, your birth story creates the patterning and the wiring for how you're going to have every experience of life. So, for example, my birth story: 3 days in labor. My dad, my mum's physician wasn't there. So my dad did not like the physician that was there. They were arguing the whole time. My mum was extremely stressed and fearful. And then I went into stress and fear in the body as a baby, and an emergency cesarean was needed. My dad nearly punched out the doctor because they were arguing. He was dragged out of the room. My mum's like paralyzed from all the drugs that she was on, and then goes into general anesthetic. And then I'm birthed into the world, and my mum's not even there's no skin to skin. I'm just a baby by myself in a bed, get a few minutes with my dad, and then it's Saturday night. And so then I go to a room, and I'm in a room by myself, probably with somebody looking over me, but no skin to skin with a human. And I'm by myself for however many hours until the morning. It's a Sunday morning, so my mum gets to see me later. And then nobody really comes to visit my mum because she was in immense pain as well. So that is wired into my DNA, that experience of how I'm going to be birthed into the world, and then obviously being severed from your placenta, which is supposed to be on there until it falls off naturally, because it infuses the baby with all the vitamins, hormones, nutrients, stem cells, to create a perfect immune system, so that it won't need to have any pharmaceuticals. But that's cut off as well. So my first experience of life is, it's unsafe to be here. I'm going to be alone by myself. Nobody's coming for me. And my mum and dad aren't there for me. And that I'm anxious and I'm scared. So that's just wired into my nervous system, and that drama will always be around me. So rebirthing breathwork allows us to go back and have our first breath not in trauma, because our first breath, once the umbilical cord is cut, that's when our first breath is taken, and it's in trauma. It's not supposed to be that way, right? If our umbilical cord is kept on, then the baby will experience tiny little sips of air, and it won't even be a proper breath until the placenta stops pulsating life into the baby. So it gets to experience breath in a really calm way, and that's what builds a calm and regulated nervous system. So it's no coincidence. No coincidence that everybody's nervous system is wired to trauma and to drama. And that's why these experiences come into our lives constantly, because we're wired that way. So when we do rebirthing breathwork, we're able to go right back to the beginning, and not in every breath this will happen. And it's something that happens, you just don't know when it's going to happen, but we're able to experience that first breath and heal the trauma that is stored in the cells in those moments, and start to rewire ourselves naturally. And we don't need to do it. We don't need to make any effort, because oxygen and carbon dioxide is what does it for us, and works with the cells on a cellular memory, so that these trapped emotions can release, and then we can come back to our pure innocent state and our organic state of being, and live from that space, which is confident, regulated, grounded, and it
Mm.
provides just such beauty and nourishment for our lives. So that's another area that I work on with people, is the breath work and the healing, the physical body and the mind and the nervous system. And then similar to Ken, but with plants, helping people to regulate their body and their nervous system with a vegan plant-based diet. And then there's the mind and the spirit. So connecting people back with nature as well. So getting them back to the land, getting them back to elemental practices of earth, air, fire, and water in each every day and within themselves, so that they can have deep resonance with the planet and with their organic matter and with spirit as well. So they're the three areas that I work with people.
You know, you add on to that though, like all the trauma that you were talking about, and some of the things about the placenta that you had mentioned there, I was just like, I never actually realized. Actually, interesting enough, I actually misunderstood what that was. I thought you were talking about the pineal gland in the beginning, and then later it kind of clicked. Oh, placenta, it's something else. So definitely had some aha moments with what you had shared there. But now I want to take that even a step further. So now you add on to that one of the reasons why, you know, we're so trauma based and like fear and anxiety, and we're always living in the past, and we're always worried about this or that, or, you know, we're having problems with our own self-image or whatever, you know, from year 0 to year 7, we are subconsciously literally learning at a very free state, in a hypnotic state, to be more exact. And, you know, it's just interesting, especially an experience like what you went through. I can only imagine the subconscious codes that went inside your subconscious mind and your head. I can only imagine. And, you know, that's, my gosh, you know, we had the opportunity, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning her name here on the show, but we had an opportunity to bring aboard, to bring on our show somebody by the name of Anna Berger. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she
Only
is,
through you.
huh? Oh, only through. That's right. That's right. Because you watched the other episodes. I love it. I love it. So her subconscious work that she's I had the opportunity of doing some deep work with her, and I gotta say, number one, I shared some things with her that I've never shared with anybody ever in my entire life. Of And you know, kind of learning how some of these things that happened through my childhood, just the way my own dad was, the way how controlling he was, just the personality that he was, you know, and different things like that. Just kind of like learning how that literally programmed things into my own head, which is why I'm, you know, trying to break out of some of these things now. But man, this whole journey over the last, I'm going to say 3 or 4 months, of just realizing all of this, and then starting to like literally do the work to kind of like reprogram, and to, in a sense, maybe not to the full extent that, if I were to work with you, maybe not to the full extent of like rebirthing, but learning to like just reprogram, and learning how to, I don't know how to put it, embrace this new way of thinking is just phenomenal. Here's something else. I have another question for you that has come to my mind. And this may be a little bit off topic, but it just, this whole conversation kind of brings this about, because this is something recent that's just now started happening to me over the last week and a half since I've been doing all this work, especially since my deep session with Anna. So first question, do you know anything about numerology?
I do, but I'm not well versed in it.
Maybe you know enough, because I'm about to share something with you. And I've just, as of yesterday, started doing some research. And actually, as I was reading through some of these articles, I actually kind of started tearing up because it was so deeply joyous to me to read some of the things I was reading about this kind of stuff. It was so joyous, especially with what's happened to me. And I just started recording it July 7th. So I'm just going to read to you these real quick. July 7th, I noticed on my phone it said 11:11 a.m. July 8th, I noticed on my phone it said 1:11 p.m. July 8th, again, 8:11 p.m. July 10th, 3:11 p.m. July 10th, again, 9:11 p.m. July 11th, 11:11, I saw on my phone 3:33. July 12th, 10:11 a.m. July 12th, 2:11 p.m. July 12th, on my heart rate app at the gym, I saw my average heart rate 111. July 12th, again, 5:11 p.m. July 13th, 5:11 a.m. July 13th, 11:11 a.m. July 13th, 2:11 p.m. July 13th, 6:11 p.m. Now I'm going to mention, I'm not looking for these. This is just me randomly looking at the clock. July 13th, 7:11. July 14th, today, on the microwave clock, 10:11 a.m. Today, 2:11 p.m. on the microwave clock again. In the car on the way to the gym today, 3:11. So anyhow, on and on.
We get the idea. So basically, that when you see numbers like that, I've just looked this up, right? And when you see the same numbers, because I see it as well, and in fact, while you were saying this, it just went 1:11 on this particular show, right? As you were saying this, right? It just went 1:11. Now, 1 signifies a beginning, new beginnings. 2 is about nurturing. 3 is about growth, and 4 is about structure. 4 is also an angel number as well. So there's lots in numerology, and if you're seeing the same numbers, I always see it as you're on the right path. If you see the numbers, it's just trust that your angels and guides are there, and they're guiding you through, and you're on exactly the right path. And the beautiful work that Anna does is she recodes the subconscious mind. So I want to chat about what Blythe was saying, because it brought back a lot of memories for me in my childhood, because I was born 3 weeks early and put into a humidity crib for a week. And I've had a lot of, a big theme there through my life of not feeling like I belong, of feeling all alone. And I wanted to belong to all these different groups, right? How interesting, and here I'm 49, never married, no children. I've been very much a solo, free spirit in this world, even in relationships that I've had over the years. I've been very much a very independent person in all of that. And so my question is, I was very curious about what you're saying about the placenta, about how we're cut, the umbilical cord is cut. So how long would it take naturally for the placenta to naturally fall away, Blythe? Do you know
Yeah. So it takes like maybe about 3 to 8 hours to stop pulsating, and then it can take 3 to 8 days to drop off. So it's supposed to stay on there naturally. Did you know that because babies are, have been born, like they're in the womb, they can actually go underwater for like up to half an hour to 60 minutes because they've been in the water all that time. Like, so yeah, the placenta does so many different things, and babies are so much more magical than we actually realize, right? So yeah, the placenta is supposed to stay on, and we're one of 3 mammals on this planet that doesn't produce its own vitamin C. Vitamin C is what heals, I'm sure you guys know, cancer, all of the things, right? It prevents disease and all of the things. Instead, we've got our umbilical cord cut, we're shot with a vitamin K shot right at birth, and so our immune system is starting to like not work for itself anymore, right? So yeah, that's really, really, really interesting. And I want to go back to your birth as well, Aldwyn, because our birth story, and exactly what Ken was saying, up until 7 years, we are then our most dominant characteristic is going to come out as well. And in basic psychology, which is a lot of what our training was on as well for rebirthing breathwork, it's there's a dominant structure as well. And yours would potentially be, and most people that are, born early, or they're in a bed by themselves for quite a while, they don't have a lot of skin to skin, is called a schizoid wounding. So they're often, life is so, it's so, for a baby, can you imagine not having anybody around you? So your consciousness just leaves your body constantly. And we're often classed as the unwanted child because they're alone. They're often in life like outside, or spend a lot of time alone, or a lot of time in video games, or they're the ones that will get caught up in agendas and think that they need to change who they are because they don't feel comfortable in their body. But in actual fact, it's because they were alone, and they don't feel comfortable in their own skin. So it's about creating that safe container for ourselves so that we can just allow our inner child to feel safe, allow our nervous system to integrate and be in the moment, you know. So that's the first birth wound. And then the next one is that's the schizoid. The next one is masochist. So often really endurance, and a lot of endurers, more heavy set in the body and will put up with anything, a lot of suppressing emotions, often just really happy all the time. We call them the psychopathic killers because, you know, they're actually really storing a lot of anger on the inside, a lot of hurt.
The Disneyland whore people.
Yeah, probably. Probably. I'm not familiar with that, but probably, yes.
It's so just a statement I'm just putting out. It's not actually a real thing, but yeah, huh?
Isn't it?
A Disneyland.
Yes, it is. It is. Okay, so it is true. Never mind. Scratch that statement. It's totally true.
I didn't hear what you said. What was it? A Disneyland what? What did you say?
The Disneyland whore people. So basically somebody that's happy and like da 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 da, and then in a split moment they're just like, I'm going to kill you.
The horror people. Okay, this is all resonating though, by the way, Blythe. So I'm loving this. Thank you.
Cool, no worries. Then we've got the masochist, the endurer, will put up with anything, but is often really disempowered and can't feel the strength to move forward. Then we've got the oral, which is like often needing to share so much and like quite needy as well. So it can be not know how to ask and express for their needs to be met, or is overly like just always sharing. You know, there's people in a room that just, you can't get a word in because they're just like blah, 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 blah. And then when they've like had 2 hours of talking, it's still not enough, you know. So that oral wounding, and that's generally because they didn't have their mother there. They generally weren't breastfed, and so for so many reasons. But the needy child is classed as. And then the psychopath, and that's a big birth wound of mine. So the psychopath had really narcissistic parents and was often humiliated a lot, and then they become very controlling and always need to be a leader in their environment. And then we have the rigid, which is quite perfectionist and obsessive and needs to have everything right and everything on the right way, will always be on time, will always look perfect, and will generally be a lot of the people in Hollywood because they look really, really beautiful as well. So they're generally their faces are symmetrical as well. So, and these birth up to 7 years old. So the rigid is the last of the wounding. Each one of those is a different stage in life, and it depends where we had the most amount of trauma to what will be our most dominant wound, and where we will act from. Our personality, our greatest mask will generally be from one of those. So it's really fascinating to go back in and work with people and actually just see people's bodies and how they act, and where their greatest wound is and where their greatest mask is. And then we can start to work on that and start to heal that within people. And it's not the person, the therapist doing that, it's their own breath. Like their body is the source of all information, and their breath is the key to that. So just by working with the breath will, and the CO2 will go to wherever there is the most amount of trauma, and be able to start just releasing that. And so then the memories might come back, the feelings in the body might come back, but it might not. It might just be a beautiful release, and then just blissful feelings afterwards. So it just depends. But the birth, like those birth wounds and the our characteristics are really, really interesting. And I'm the same as you, Ken. I had a very traumatic upbringing, and because like my birth story, like as if I could be anything else. There's drugs, there's violence, there's all of the things. And what was really funny is I actually had this reoccurring dream. I'd wake up every night at 9:56, which was the moment I was born. I'd wake up every night at this time and feel like I was being strapped to a table and I couldn't move. I'd be screaming for my mother and feel bright lights in my eyes. And then my mum would actually arrive, like in the room. and I would be paralyzed and I couldn't move and I'd be screaming and I'd be delirious. I wouldn't recognize her. And I'd say, no, I want my real mother, my real mother. And it was really traumatic. And anyway, I had these dreams for years. And it wasn't until I was 40 going through a rebirthing process. And I realized that I was just witnessing my own birth, you know, and so many people that I'd spoken to had, you know, I'm quite open to many things, had told me, you know, that sounds like an alien attack. It sounds like you were taken by aliens. It sounds like satanic ritual abuse. It sounds like all of these things. And so I literally believed like the possibility of all of these things. And I was like, oh, I was quite deluded. It was actually just my own birth that I was witnessing. But nobody recognized that out of all of these people that I had seen, from, you know, mainstream to like way out there, witch doctors. And yeah, so that was the rebirthing brought a lot of groundedness back into my reality, because I feel like I had quite a lot of distorted reality. So that's been really beautiful for me.
It's interesting that, so doing the inner work and doing the real work that's, you know, required to find these things out, this is actually where we're actually finding the real answers to things, you know. And it's just like, the thing about it is not a lot of people realize that. So, I mean, it could be subconscious work. It could be the rebirthing that you're doing. But these are, I mean, I'm being exposed to more and more of these methods and seeing how these methods are very powerful and working, and how all fingers are starting to point at these things, because these methods are how we were designed to be able to help each other heal each other and help to, you know, explain these things, rather than going outside to outside sources. And as you very accurately say, giving your power away to these other sources, these doctors and different things like that. Some of them, yes. Some of the doctors, their hearts are well intended. You know, I will give them credit, just as I will also give police officers credit, you know, because a lot of police officers, they're good people, you know. But the thing about it is,
they go into it for the right reasons. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the thing about it is what a lot of people need to realize too, is these doctors have been programmed by the industry. They don't know any better. These police officers that act in these different ways, honestly, I really honestly give them the benefit of the doubt. They don't know any better. That is what they've been taught to do. That is what they've been trained to do in the system. But again, there's the key word, the system. The system has no real viable answers for us. We have the viable answers. We have been given the viable answers.
100%. And thank you for bringing all of that up, because who created the university courses? Who sponsors the universities? Where is this information coming from? Look at that research. It's fascinating.
The Rothschilds.
Right. Exactly.
And the
Pharmaceutical
Rockefeller
companies.
Yeah.
Right. So in order for there to be great, you know, free thinking, we have to look outside the box. And that's why I always say to people, you know, like you're saying, do the recoding work or do the breath work. Or for me, before it was, you know, meditation and yoga. Like all of these things are tools to help us come back into ourselves. And I feel like the greatest medicine is ourselves and the elements. Always the elements, the breath, you know, the grounding on the earth, because that literally neutralizes inflammation in the body and in the mind and calms the nervous system. You know, the water, external waters that are flowing, help to take away the emotions that are really traumatizing for us, you know. And then also working with the fire, whether that's the fire within our heart and our passion, definitely getting the sun on us every day, into our eyes, into our pineal, into like this part of our head is very important every day. And then also working with the fire, because the fire, like the flames of the fire, is really good for hearing our prayers, burning our suffering.
It's soothing, it's comfortable, it's mesmerizing. Have you ever like been in front of like a fire pit? It's like amazing how long you can sit there in silence.
Yep. Yeah, and the Native Americans, like, you know, I've been really lucky enough to sit with a lot of Indigenous communities in the Americas, and the Native Americans all sit with the fire. You know, that's their sacred ceremony is with the fire, and using numerology so that everything is aligned perfectly in order with the elements and with the four directions and all of it. And it's so beautiful. And you just sit there and put your prayers and your hopes and all your pain and your suffering into the fire so it can all burn away. You know, like the elements, there's no, nature doesn't make a mistake with us or with the elements. And once we get that communion back in our beings and in our everyday, then I just feel like everything comes way more pure and back into perfect alignment, and the fear starts to go away, and we don't need to have the external infiltrations of the mind, because that's the greatest poison. You guys, you know, you're all about the not having the mainstream media in the brain.
Yeah.
And that's just the biggest contamination that we can put into ourselves. So getting rid of that and plugging back into nature, that in itself can, you know, get rid of anxiety, depression and suicidal thoughts, and stop us from feeling alone, because we're so connected to nature. I know that I'm an alone being generally in my makeup, and I love being in nature, but I don't ever feel alone. Like, I feel so just connected to everything. And I'd love more people to feel like that, and give themselves the chance and the stillness to feel like that. And a lot of people don't want to feel, a lot of people feel scared to be by themselves. And that's what it is. It's like this, we always feel like we need to have something there. As soon as we get a second free, it's like, let's call somebody, let's do something, let's watch something. It's like, just breathe and be still and come back to that presence, and see if you can just like look at the beauty of nature around you, and your heart will start to feel better. It's medicine. And like you were saying before, Ken, with the aha moment, like everything we put in ourselves is medicine. What we listen to is medicine. I haven't had a TV in my house for 13 years. I don't listen to any of it. I don't watch programs because they're programs. I'll only be programmed by nature. Thank you. That's my only programming. And, you know, like the food, the vibration and the frequency of the food, it's medicine. It's not just about the amount of carbs and proteins and all of those things. Like, you can, like, I teach people to tune in with their body and to like allow their body to speak rather than their mind to speak of what they need. So I'll every day ask my body what it needs. Like, do you want this? Do you want that? And then what's it called when you self-test? What's that testing called when you go to a kinesiologist? So I teach people how to do kinesiology, self-kinesiology, so that they can, and people should be able to, like, the easiest form of self-kinesiology is to just stand up, really grounded, look up to your third eye and ask yourself yes or no questions. Do I want this? Is my name this? And then you'll either sway backwards or forwards or left or right. And then so you can ask your body the questions, because your body is divine intelligence. It's an earth being. It's connected to this earth. It knows what it needs to ground you in. So ask it, speak with it, communicate with your body, communicate with the earth. I swear you'll feel more magic than ever. And that's why I love those numbers as well, Ken, because it's like those numbers are just the universe speaking back to you. It's like giving you, like Aldwyn was saying, it's just giving you information back that you're on the right path. And, you know, just like keep on going. It's those little bits of magic. I'm here for the magic. I'm here for the magic, you know.
And I'm sorry, I might have gotten a little carried away with those going on and on and on, but it's just, this is just the moment that I'm in my particular journey, and it's so fresh. So I tend to just be bleh about it, you know.
You're excited.
But that's what it's like as well. When you do, I reckon at the beginning, when you do take the pill, right? It's like nature is just there more, and the universe is a bit there more, and it speaks a bit louder, you know, because it wants you to get it. It really wants you to get it. And it's so, I love that space. I love it. I remember it, and it's like magic. And then when you, I don't know, because I've been doing the work for a really long time, it doesn't get old, I'll be honest. Like, my communication with nature is like, before, when I was like just getting excited, it's because I was feeling the ancestors of the trees just here, just they come to the side. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to express that, you know. So it's just that constant feedback all the time of like, okay, yes, that's right. Yes, I'll share that. These emotions are coming up. That's there for a reason. And something that we haven't actually prefanced yet is the inner child's voice and how important that is, because a lot of this mindset work and all of that, it suppresses the inner child, where the inner child's voice needs to be heard and seen and expressed for what it is, in its vulnerability, in its truth, in its innocence, and what can sometimes be construed as uncomfortable or awkward. It's so beautiful. And the more of us that are able to share from all parts of our being, then we're fully integrated and accepted in that moment. We accept ourselves, and we allow the others to accept themselves and what might have been uncomfortable in those moments too, because it's this self-acceptance that we're all like searching for unknowingly, and a lot of us don't get to experience that until we die. And I just think, like, whoa, like,
Right.
my heart hurts for that. You know, my heart hurts for humanity in that moment. Like, I'm just like, I just want everybody to be able to go through their own journey and have that self-acceptance and realizations that they don't need to be scared of themselves, because that's what they're scared of. They're scared of their own authenticity being expressed and other people judging them. And that's really like hard.
And then the other thing too is, I remember you saying that there's people that really have a hard time connecting to all that. And the thing is, and again, this is also part of my journey, something that I realized is that it's not about connecting. That's not it at all, because you are already part of it. Everything is already a part of you. It's like the wave in the ocean. The wave doesn't have to say to the ocean, am I connected to you? Oh, I need to connect with you. No, you are the ocean. You're already part of it. And realizing that is like the big wow, you know?
So true. It's so beautiful. Yes, 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 absolutely. And yes, yes. And the more we just take those moments to just breathe, be still, notice, see the beauty, we realize that, yeah, there is no disconnection. And between all the powers, right? That's why I'm like, don't give your power away, because it can empower you. Like, one of my old mentors was like, do you know what's going to be the biggest spiritual, because I used to be so woo-woo, it's not funny. The biggest spiritual awakening that you'll have will be by reading the legislation, Blythe. I was like, as if I'm like a yogi, you know, like, no. But it was because it really grounded me. And I realized that I was actually like using other tools to get outside of my body to connect, when I could just like be in my pajamas, like not brush my teeth, and be fully connected all the time. You know, like, it's not about going anywhere or needing to practice this or do that. Exactly. It's with you all the time if you allow it. And yeah, if you just
Yeah,
like allow it.
I mean, it's like we are God's DNA. We are part of him. His DNA is in us. The earth is in us. So that, that's what I mean when we are, I mean, I'm not, for those in our audience that are listening, maybe you're listening on the replay and you're thinking, oh, okay, Ken's kind of getting a little woo-woo here. No, it's not woo-woo at all. It's true. We were created with God's DNA. We were created out of the earth. We are literally connected to that. Why do you think they do everything they possibly can to disconnect us from that, to give us shoes with soles on it that disconnect us from the magnetic force of the earth that actually help to heal our bodies?
100% agree. Yes. Aldwyn, sorry, go.
Powerful conversation. I'm loving. Can you believe we're coming up to nearly an hour and 40 minutes we've been chatting? And when we come into heart space, our heart chakra and above, time and space disappear. And we could keep on chatting about this topic. There's so much more we could talk about, I'm sure. However, I think it'd be a good idea to start wrapping up soon. So anything else you'd like to share, Blythe, about the truth about being sovereign or about sovereignty before we wrap up?
Yes, absolutely. So just remember that fear takes you away from your own sovereignty, that you are sovereign in every moment, and you can only allow somebody else to disempower you, because you can empower yourself in every moment. Buy out of the fear and watch good things. If you need to watch TV, and if you need to like be having external things give you information, watch good things. I only come on to socials rarely, and I watch really great stuff about, you know, people that are inventing things or that are, you know, doing great things for the environment. And I'm just like crying with joy for like, yes, this planet, yes, these people, you know. So like, you're like your good news stories, Aldwyn, you know, like, yes, I'm excited for humanity. So like everything is trying to deregulate our nervous system and have us being depressed, sick and stuck. So we really have to like support ourselves and figure out our own little rituals and practices that help us really come out of that and come back into our sovereignty and our truth and our resonance, and finding people and a community and connection, or creating your own community around you, whether it be virtually or in your own community, of authentic people that you can just be real with, that accept you and you accept them for how they show up, will change your life and bring you back into even more sovereignty. And that is what scares the public sector, and that's what they don't want you to do. So just go and do that.
I love it. Thank you, Blythe. And where can people connect with you?
I've got a Blythe Langford website, which is more for my woo-woo and breath. That's not true. For my retreats and my breath work and my coaching and like the health side of things. And then I've got Resonate Foundation, which is my not-for-profit that helps other people connect with creating their legacy and their mission, and private members associations, not-for-profit associations, and humanitarian and philanthropic projects. And then you can find me on Insta. I'm not on there regularly, but if you send me a DM, I will get back to you when I get back on there.
Thank you.
So Blythe Langford.
Popped all that in there. Resonatefoundation.co. That's spelled RESONATE, foundation, FOUNDATION.co. And we've got BlytheLangford.com, which is spelled BLYTHE. Langford is LANGFORD.com for those who are tuning in on the audio on this, and also Insta at Blythe Langford, as we just spelt it there as well. Thank you so much. That's amazing. And having an empowering community of people who are also, you know, standing for the same stuff and who are also getting empowered and getting educated on this stuff is also really crucial, as much as, you know, getting used to being empowered in your own space, because that's something for a long time. I must say I've been running away from myself for many years. I was actually very scared of being alone because, you know, and I had depression many times, and I was, you know, went through a whole period of self-harm and not wanting to be here on the planet, feeling invisible. Thank goodness I've come out the other side of that. And it's been a conscious effort. You know, I've been doing a lot of work with women's circles, a lot of all sorts of work, you know, this subconscious recoding as well with Anna, and with, you know, RTT work, rapid transformation therapy work with a lady called Angelique Pellegrino. Just the other day, I was with a lady called Kuvi Bradley on the Gold Coast. We did a body code session. Another lady, Margot Rankin, I've done body code work with, and so many different modalities and things out there that can help you, you know, recenter yourself, to meditate. Yoga, I love. There's so many different practices that I love, and I feel it when I don't go into the ocean for a while. The ocean has been a beautiful thing for me to recenter myself and recalibrate. And every time I hop into the ocean, I feel so cleansed and so rejuvenated. It's like I've pressed the reset button. And I guess regardless of our backgrounds, regardless of when our umbilical cord was cut, regardless of all that stuff, everything has brought us to this point now, and we can't change any of that stuff, right? As I was listening to you, I'm really fascinated by this whole placenta thing. And, you know, like water birth seems so natural for me, and that'd be a whole other topic, is doing a water birth. But, you know, it never really made much logical sense. Why would you lie down on a bed and push out to give birth? Why wouldn't you squat? Wouldn't it make more sense to squat or to be in that position to give birth than to lie on your back and push it out? And then I think to myself, well, why do babies come into the world and just the first thing they do is cry their lungs out? They're crying. They're in absolute trauma and fear. And this is the thing, is moving from this fear and trauma that for many of us is in our DNA and is ingrained in us, and we're often not even conscious of it, to move from that, to find ways, whatever works for us, to move from that into this beautiful place of enlightenment. You know, this is the, you know, moving up Dr. Hawkins' scale of consciousness, which is also in the Conscious Community Global Group, you know, really, really getting conscious to how we're feeling you know, what we're doing in line with how we're feeling, what's our purpose on the planet, and how we can help also enlighten others as we go through this journey of enlightenment. And you know, I think there will be times we're going to go up and down this scale at different times. However, how can you move through it gracefully, beautifully, and acknowledge and embrace all the ups and downs of the whole journey and be the best version of yourself? And that comes with what some of the things we've been teaching here today and sharing from our experiences. And of course, do your research for yourself. Here on the Total Truth Show, we share our truth, and please do your own research, and you will find that for yourself as well. And I want to thank all of our people that have been watching this live as well. We've been streaming out to Facebook, to LinkedIn, to YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. We've got Simon Bull here, says fascinating conversation on Facebook. Thank you so much, Simon Bull. There we have Mike Joe here also on Facebook. Very impressive. Thank you so much. We have a LinkedIn user. So within, so without. Yes, so within, so without. He says true, fantastic. And barefoot on the lawns too. Yes, absolutely. Grounding on the grass. Very, very powerful. And not the fake grass either, for crying out loud. Where does bloody fake grass come from? Anyway, that's another topic. Thanks, guys. Great stuff. Another LinkedIn user. Please let us know who you are, LinkedIn user. Yes, the ocean. Thank you so much. Well, please let us know if you've been watching this or listening to this on the audio. Let us know, what did you get out of this show today? What are some of the gold nuggets you picked up from our show today? And if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please share the love. We'd love you to like our Facebook page as well, Total Truth Show. Follow us on all the podcast channels, online, etc. Now, Ken, where can people connect with you?
Well, you can connect with me. The best place really is on my Linktree. And on my Linktree, you're going to find 3 links. Important. Well, you're going to find more than 3 links, but the first top 3 links are the most important. And that is going to be one, my Facebook group. I have a growing Facebook group community that's specifically designed to enlighten and empower people, not just how to lose the weight, but how to keep their weight off for good. There's lots of good stuff in there. So join my Facebook group. That's 1. 2, book an appointment with me. That's the other link that's on there, is my calendar link. Book an appointment with me. Let's get on a Zoom call. At least let me get to know you. If, you know, you don't want to hire me as a coach, so be it. At least let's get to know each other. Let me know where you're at. And, you know, maybe I can give you some tips right there on the call. Book a call with me. I don't bite, and I'm not going to high pressure sell you. Promise. Third thing is my website. You can go there. You can see all I'm about, read about me, read a little bit about my journey, and see, you can find me there. So that's the thing. And for those listening by audio, so Linktree is www.linktr.ee/FatFighterKen.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ken. And thank you. Our LinkedIn user is Melissa Petrak Mellor. Thank you for letting us know who you are, LinkedIn user. Melissa, we really appreciate your comments, and everyone else who has commented here today as well. We're going to wrap up shortly with our favorite quote. However, for those who want to connect with me first, my links are all at linktree/Aldwyn, linktr.ee/Aldwyn. You'll see all my links. We do have the Global Good News Challenge on right now. We've just celebrated 3 years in June 2023 of our Global Good News Challenge. It's absolutely free. It's a great way that you can lift the energy on the planet and lift your own energy by sharing gratitude and good news on your social media. All the details are pinned to the top of the Global Good News Challenge Facebook page. And thanks to our sponsors and supporters of that too, Testa Power, Angelique Pellegrino, Plant Tag IDs. And if you want to come and support the Good News Challenge as well, if you want to donate anything, any prizes, etc., just reach out to me as well there. And for those who want to be seen, heard, and known in the media, we have a mass media mastery program as well, where we empower people to step out with their message and share their truth with the world. So reach out to me. You can also book a call on my calendar link as well. that's also in that. If you can't find any spots in there, then just send me a private message on socials. You'll find me there as well. And thank you so much for our LinkedIn user. I presume that's Melissa again. Thank you guys. Awesome insights. Amazing. Thank you so much. Please share the love. We're so glad you've enjoyed it here today, and we're so grateful for our special guest. Blythe has been absolutely extraordinary today. Now we're going to wrap up with our quotes, our favorite quotes, or a quote we'd like to share today. So let's go over to Blythe and share any final thoughts on your quote, please.
We're simply walking each other home.
Love it. We're simply walking each other home. Yes, absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Blythe. And Ken, what's your favorite quote of the day today?
That was amazing. I've never heard that one before. I like that one. I'm going to use my good old-fashioned quote just because I love it. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. That is by Donald J. Trump.
Love it. Thank you so much, Ken. And I'm going to share a Margaret Mead one today, and that is a small group of thoughtful people can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. And you're seeing it right here on the Total Truth Show, a small group of thoughtful people changing the world. And no doubt if you're tuning in, then you're one of those people too. So I salute you. I take my hat off to you. Every little bit counts. Everything we do counts. It all has a ripple effect out there. So thank you so much for joining us. Any final words from Ken or Blythe before we wrap up today?
I just want to say thank you so much for having me. It's been so beautiful to be able to speak with you guys and share. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Blythe. You're amazing. Ken?
It's been a pleasure having you on the show for sure. I just love the smile. I love the energy you give off. It's just absolutely incredible. And the hair is beautiful too. One thing I'm going to remind all of you guys that just remember, and again, this is not me being woohoo. You are already connected to everything. If you want to be wealthy, and that speaks in all the fullness of the words, and that speaks in health, not just money, then don't be worried about the outside sources that are reflecting that maybe you're not at that particular time, because what's shown up in your life right now is actually a reflection of what you have created. So to be wealthy, to be what you want to be, and this is a practice. It's not going to happen overnight. Just be. And remember that you are connected to that. You are even connected to wealth. So just remember that.
Yes, thank you, Ken. I totally agree with that. You are extraordinary. I always say to people, you're 1 in a billion just by being born. You beat about 1 billion swimmers to get to the finish line, and you are extraordinary. You're here for a reason. And my encouragement, I wish for everyone who is tuning in right now, my wish is for you to live the most extraordinary life and to make the most of every precious moment. I'm a bit emotional at the moment. I'm at my parents' place in Bribie Island, and yesterday we went to a spot where they want to be buried, where they want to be, cremated, or where they want to be placed when they die. And I'm very present to the preciousness of this life we're in. We're spiritual beings having this human experience. And I am so present to how amazing the world is and how precious every moment is. So here's to you making the most of your amazing life, of your extraordinary gift of life that you've been given. However you've come into the world, there's lots we can do to really make the most of it. So hopefully you've been inspired today, and hopefully you'll go out and put some of these things in place, or reach out for some extra support. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Blythe. Thank you, Ken. Thank you for watching and tuning in. Please share the love. Let us know what you thought, and we'll see you again back soon on Total Truth Show. Bye for now.